Hey, welcome back to the El Camino project presented by Quick-Carbuilders. We're going to get started on shaving the door handles on the El Camino doors. And so this is one of the doors here. I've got it up on a workbench here, and I put a couple pieces of rubber hose underneath it just so it wouldn't get all scratched up, even though we're going to be doing some painting on it anyway. And so first step we're going to do is basically going to just strip everything off of here. We'll be going back with custom door panels in here. Be putting electric windows in, keyless entry. So a lot of this stuff, we're putting some custom door handles on it. So most of the parts here, we're not going to really save them to be reused anyway. So first step is we'll get this thing pulled apart, and then we flip it over. We'll go ahead and fill in the door handle and the key lock on these. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead, and there's two screws here holding this armrest on. We're going to go ahead and take those out first. Get this armrest up off of here. Been on here since 1979, so they're not being too cooperative. One screw that just doesn't want to come out. When all else fails, just use a little bit of force. That always helps. Okay, underneath there we've got a couple of big screws holding this thing in, so we'll go ahead and get them taken out. It's always a good idea if you're going to reuse these parts to make sure you put them in a baggie or somewhere so you can keep them for later. Alright, we got that loose. So we're going to pop the window crank off of here. And there's just a little C-clamp up in there. Since we're redoing all of this, we're not going to worry too much about salvaging them. So they do make a tool for that, but this is the one I use. Alright, that's up. I've already pulled some of the weather stripping off of here. And again, we'll be replacing all that, so we're not really trying to salvage it. And once that's done, it's got those little clips up underneath here that hold this on. And so I'm just going to go ahead and start popping them up. These ones across the back, down the bottom here. That's why I couldn't adjust the mirrors. It was laying loose in there. Alright, we're going to pull this panel apart. And then this just slides off this way. So that's off. And then the bottom piece just slides off too. So that's done. And again, we're not going to reuse any of this, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull all this out. We'll have some custom door panels made when we put this back together. Alright, now we're going down to the good stuff here. And go ahead, got one more screw here, and I can get the rest of this weather stripping off. You can buy reproduction weather stripping for these, so we won't be worrying about saving any of that either. Okay, I guess that's alright. We got that all off. Next thing we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take all of these window guides and window stops off. So we want to get the glass out, and I think it'll be easier if we get all those off of there first. So I'm just taking all these off, and of course we're saving all these pieces because we'll probably be reusing them, some of them. do have air tools, but just something about twisting a wrench sometimes is just a lot better. Now, I got me a little bucket down here, and I'm just saving all these parts into that bucket. And then after I get done, I'll box them up and label them. So we'll have them when we go to put this thing back together. These are the guides that they have a little felt piece on them, so when that glass, since it's curved, as it's coming up, it's rubbing against that and these, and basically keeps it from moving around too much. Okay, we got one more here. That should be all the guides. So we're going to go ahead and crank this window out. To the stop, to the regulator. I recommend being careful on this, because if you can see, I kind of got this hanging out here. When these bolts come out, there's not a whole lot holding this window in, and it will go flying. Of course, taking things apart, that's the easy part. The hard part is getting it all back together again. I'm not wearing any gloves, but it's usually a good idea to. A lot of this sheet metal has got some really sharp edges on it. Alright, our glass is loose. Slide that on out. I'm not going to throw this back here. I think I'll set it down. I don't know if we'll be replacing that or reusing that. So, okay, from here, now we can go ahead and take our regulator out. Basically just undo every other bolt nut that you can find on here. And some of these we're going to end up drilling out because they're riveted in, like this door handle. We'll be doing custom door handles. We'll be redoing all of that. And we won't be reusing these regulators either, because we're going to go back with electric. Alright, I think I got all of them loose. We're going to go ahead and take this strip off here. This is where the window trim is, and we will be reusing this, so we're going to try to take good care of this. And the last screw for that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to drill out some of these rivets. For some reason, GM decided they would rivet some things in here, and so some of these are still holding in the regulator, the window regulator. So in order to do that, I'm just going to use a drill. One door handle off. We'll get the rest of that off when we take the out, which we can go ahead and do that now actually. Well, let me drill out this one other rivet here. Okay, we got a couple screws here that aren't cooperating too much, so we're going to put the chisel on them, get them loosened up. Needed a little bit of help, that's all. Hammer and a chisel will usually loosen just about everything. When we put this doors back on, we're going to put some new bear claw latches in here to go with the remote keyless entry system. So we won't be reusing these. When you buy those, they have a mounting kit that comes with it that'll fit in here, and you actually tack weld it in, so it gives you a nice good fit. That's the lock mechanism, I forgot about that. Wow. There it went. Just have to use a little more force, that's all. All of this is attached to the key lock. And I'm having a little bit of a challenge. There we go. Get that undone. Alright. There that is. Put it in our pipe. And the lock assembly comes out along with it. And we'll be filling that hole in, won't be using that again. Okay, next we're going to grind some of these rivets down, get the rest of this regulator out of there. I'm going to drill these out, but they had metal sticking up out of the middle of them and couldn't get a drill started, so I'm just grinding that down. Okay, we're ready to start filling in these little holes. And we've got our MIG welder from HTP America set down pretty low. And basically just going to tack this hole shut. That'll work. That'll work. Alright, I've cut a little wafer out of some 20 gauge sheet metal, and that'll fit right in that spot. Now what I'm doing, I know some of y'all out there may be a lot better at sheet metal than me, and you may make a piece that's just perfectly smooth on the top, but what I'm doing is I'm sinking this down in there a little bit, and I plan on using body filler, and so I'm leaving us some little bit of a gap underneath there, so once we get this tacked in, we can go back over the top of it and just skin it out with some body filler, and it'll make a nice smooth finish on there. This one side popped up just a little bit, so I just tapped it back down in there. It's a good idea when you're welding like this to keep the gap to a minimum, because it sure makes your weld flow a lot better. I've got the heat turned down pretty low on this welder, and so we're just going to weld a little bit and let that cool, so I don't want to get it too hot, and then we'll just come back and just keep filling in between the spots that we made, and once that's finished, then we'll go ahead and fill in where the door handle was. Alright, I've let this cool down now. As you can see, we're getting pretty close to having it filled in, so I'm just going to go back around and hit in between each one of these now. Alright, we'll let that cool off for a minute and then we'll finish up on that. Alright, we've got that all tacked in. Next step is just take a grinder, and I'm just going to grind this down smooth and make sure we don't have any pinholes in it. And if we do, we'll go ahead and touch those up, and then we'll get the door handle finished. Okay, we've got all of our welds we've already done all ground down. And so for the last step, we're going to go ahead and weld this piece in. And as you can see, we're doing it like we did on the keyhole. I'm kind of leaving this recess down in there a little bit. And then when we put our body filler on, we'll have a little bit of a thin coat in there. It won't be too thick. And that way it'll come out nice and smooth. So I'm going to start by just tacking this in a couple spots. When I did that, this end is coming up a little bit, so I need to push that down in there a little bit when I go to tack that end in. This end got pulled down in there, so we're good on that side. Okay, we got it in place. I'm going to let that cool off for just a second. And then what we're going to do is make sure that it's flush down in there real good. Once you get it in like that, then you can generally just take a little hammer and kind of tap the edges down in. Wanting to make sure that we stay down below the level of the top of the door here. Looks like we're in good shape. Put a couple more tacks in. Just wanting to make sure that we keep this sheet metal nice and cool and don't let it get too hot, because we don't want it warping. It's thin and it will. Looks good so far. One more over here and then I'm going to let it cool off for about 15 minutes. Alright, we'll let that cool real good and then go back and start filling it in. Well, we got that door all done. We got the handle shaved and the key lock shaved. Filled in all the other spots on there. So we even filled in the spot where the mirror is. Of course it doesn't look like it's filled in, but we'll fill that up with some body filler. That was a pretty thick spot right there, so not sure if we're going to end up putting mirrors back on here or just leaving them off. So for now we're going to fill in the holes where the mirrors were, and then if we're going to put mirrors on later, we'll go ahead and drill some new holes. So this step of the project's finished. Now once we get the doors put back on the car, we'll be putting some new latches in here. This is the factory, where the factory latch was. We're going to put some bear claw latches in there because we're doing a remote entry system, but don't recommend doing those until the door's hung back on the car, so you can get everything lined up right where it's supposed to. So we're going to scratch this step off the project and go on to the next one. Hey, be sure to keep checking back with us now on this project, because we're going to be doing some more body work. We're going to be getting some of the rust spots taken off on the body itself, and we're shortly going to be cutting down some of the sides on the bed area back there. So keep checking back, because we got a lot going on and don't want you to miss anything.